Hi there, this is Datila with Rangers of Wrestling, bringing you the Wrestling Time post show. It is Friday, February 10th, 2023, which means that tonight I will be reviewing both AEW Rampage and everyone's favorite Friday night show, Friday Night Smackdown. Now, normally I kick things off with AEW Rampage, but because so much happened on SmackDown, let's kick things off with Friday Night Smackdown. So much went down on SmackDown that was all storyline driven. So you had Jimmy Uso, you could see him in two different segments, called Jay. CV was going to show up because, mind you, we had a tag team title match. It was supposed to be the Usos versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. So you see Jimmy trying to get a hold of Jay. Paul Heyman tells Jimmy that that maybe he should go at it alone. So what ends up happening is that during the tag team title match, like, Jimmy is determined to go at it alone, and then out of nowhere, Jay comes out. He comes through the crowd, and I was actually surprised that they did this because I didn't think that Jey Uso was going to appear until Elimination Chamber. But what happened after totally makes sense. So this match wasn't really about the match itself. It was more about the storyline that they're telling with Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. This is a decent match, though. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was a decent match. I mean, especially because, like, you had Braun Strowman hit a running power slam to Jimmy Uso. You had Jay ducking and sending Strowman and flying over to the announce table, but at the end, the Usos were victorious, which is no surprise there. But like I said, I honestly thought they were going to do the Freebird rule and they were going to have Solo Sikoa step in for Jey Uso. But that wasn't the case. So what ends up happening afterwards is that after the match is over, Jimmy asks Jay if he's in or out, and Jay says that he doesn't know. And Paul Heyman is like watching this, and he asks Jimmy if did Jay say anything, and of course Jimmy lies to him and says that he didn't. He just took off. But then the most interesting part is when you see Jey Uso. He's like in the production truck around there in that area, and Sami Zayn, wearing this hoodie, comes out and he welcomes him back. And he says that he doesn't want to put Jay in a tough spot. He says that he cannot imagine Reigns letting Jay forget what happened at the Royal Rumble. And that's pretty true. I don't think Roman Reigns is going to let Jey Uso forget what he did at the Royal Rumble. So Sami Zayn tells Jay that he doesn't have to go down with the ship and that there's a way out. Sami Zayn acknowledging Jey Uso. He acknowledges Jay and he wants to fist bump him. Jay tells Sami Zayn that he needs to get out of here, and then he fist bumps him too. So I think that was interesting. And of course, like, this is setting up to have Jay betray, at least I think, they're setting up to have Jay betray Sami Zayn at the Elimination Chamber. At this point, that has to happen. Sami Zayn, we know he's losing, but he cannot lose cleanly, so to speak, because then the crowd would still be behind Jey Uso. We have to get the crowd to turn on Jey Uso. How do you get the crowd to turn on Jey Uso? You have him go out in the middle of the match and cost Sami Zayn the match, or you have him beat down Sami Zayn. But I think it would mean more for Jey Uso to cost Sami Zayn the match and then join in on a beatdown. So, to follow up with the story, at the end of the main event, you have a quick backstage segment with Paul Heyman and Jimmy. And Heyman says that Jay is loyal to his brother. And he's telling Jimmy that Roman wants them to stay home because sometimes you see things on TV that you don't see while you're there live. So I think that implies that Paul Heyman saw what went down with Jay and Sami, so they're trying to keep him at home. But overall, I really am digging with this storyline, but that is the next logical step here. You have to have Jey Uso call Sami Zayn. All right, well, let's start from the beginning now that I talked about that. See, Paul Heyman came on, he delivered a promo, and he starts talking about how ever since Lesnar and him conquered Taker's undefeated streak, he doesn't deliver predictions. He delivers spoilers. And I like how he references how Sami Zayn is in Zayn as he's the number one challenger on SmackDown. He talks about how Cody backed him into a corner on Raw after that amazing promo delivered by both of them. He calls Cody a dumbass and says it couldn't be more personal. And he starts talking about how the plasma that runs through the veins of the blood, and he's like referring to the titles. And he says that this is everything that the tribe, it's the tribe of which Roman Reigns is chief of. Without these titles, there's no island of relevancy, there's no bloodline, there's no Heyman, and there's no Roman Reigns. So that to me tells me that at WrestleMania, when the bloodline loses all their titles, it's going to implode. They got to lose at some point. So Sami Zayn shows up and he's asking for the mic. So Hank gives Sami Zayn the mic and he tells him to calm down, that he won't hurt him, that if he wanted to, he could have. And he could have dropped Heyman like a bag of dirt that he is, since no one's out there to protect him. He says a month ago, Solo would have been out there and he would have hit him with the Samoan spike. Jay would be out there along with Jimmy. And he says that Heyman knows that Roman's days as champions are numbered. He left the bloodline. Jey Uso walked out on his own. And he asked... a new subscriber. Thank you. And he asked Heyman, what is Jimmy gonna do next? Side with his abusive cousin or his twin brother? And then he starts talking about how the special counsel looks at Roman Reigns a little creepy. And he's talking about life after Roman, and that the blind is on its way out. And he says that Roman's days are numbered. He has 8 days left as champion because the Elimination Chamber is next Saturday. Paul Heyman offers Sami Zayn his hand, but Sami Zayn pulls him in for a hug and says that Reigns doesn't need to worry about Cody because he will take him down. So, like I said, Sami Zayn's not taking Roman Reigns down, but damn, I actually really like that promo in that opening to SmackDown. We get Drew McIntyre and Sheamus versus Hit Row, and I noticed something about this match. This was, I guess you can say, pretty much a squash match because Adonis, he did not tag out at all. Like he was in this match the whole entire time. Like Top Dollar didn't even get a chance to enter this match. Though he did get a 10 beats to the Baron by Sheamus, he really didn't do much in this match. Honestly, he didn't. So I just feel like Hit Row is done for. Like they failed as heels and now they're failing. I mean, they failed as faces and now they're failing as heels. So I don't know what there's left to do for Hit Row. I don't know how you can savage Hit Row. I mean, they need a mouthpiece, and they have not been the same since Swerve Strickland, or as he was known then, Isaiah Swerve Scott, got released and is now in AEW. They need a mouthpiece, someone that can speak for them. They're just missing something. But yeah, this is pretty much a squash match. Of course, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre won. And after they won, the Viking Raiders appeared on the Titantron with like a video package. And they said that next week it's Destiny. And honestly, I feel bad for the Viking Raiders. I've mentioned this before, but I feel like the Viking Raiders haven't really had an opportunity at those tag titles. I mean, they've been killing it as a tag team and have been having really good matches. But the problem here is that with Usos being champions and the storyline that they're trying to tell, those tag titles are not going to come off of Jimmy and Jay until after WrestleMania. And then I feel like once, I'm assuming they're going to split the titles after Mania, then I feel like the Viking Raiders have a legitimate chance at being tag team champions. We get Lacey Evans versus Carmen Harress. This was a squash match. This did not do anything for me. Honestly, it did not. So this is after this. This is when we get the tag team title match of the Usos versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. But since I talked about this, just to kind of summarize, Jey Uso showed up and the Usos were victorious. It's not a surprise there. I think from here on out, they're not losing anything till WrestleMania. All right. So we get a Natalya promo. She comes out and she says that for the first time in 15 years, she got taken out by Shayna Baszler. And since Shayna took something from her, she decided to take something from Shayna. She called Shayna a cheap knockoff of Ronda Rousey. Shayna Baszler comes out and she says she's sick and tired of everyone dismissing her accomplishments. And the crowd starts chanting knockoff Ronda. She says she was signed to WWE before Ronda and doesn't need people telling her she's living in Ronda's shadow. Then Ronda Rousey returns. And they both double team on Natty. Shotzi tries to come and help, but it's no use. We get Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. And this was as a result of Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville both complaining earlier in the night to Adam Pearce. So I have to say, Chelsea Green's doing a really good job with her character, but she keeps losing. But I guess that's the point, right? Because she needs to complain. Because she's supposed to be a Karen type character. Because she lost this match for her team. She got hit with the Oblivion by Liv Morgan. But this match didn't do anything for me either. We get a quick Charlotte Flair interview. And she starts talking about how, 3 years ago, Rhea chose her because she knew Charlotte was a mountaintop. She says that Rhea was young and green, and that she hopes now that 3 years later, Rhea is ready. But she says that it's going to take more than 3 years to get to her level. And she says that she taught Rhea a lesson, but now she's going to put Rhea in her place. So our main event is an IC title contender match. It's Karrion Kross versus Madcap Moss versus Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar. This was a good main event. I liked how all of their, I guess you could say their managers were at ringside. Madcap had Karrion Kross had Scarlett. Santos Escobar had Selena. And I think even Rey Mysterio's wife, Angie, was in attendance watching. So I really like the fact that this match gave us a little moment between Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio. It was a preview of what the potential single match they can have. And I was so surprised that Madcap Moss ended up winning this. I thought maybe Rey Mysterio would win, but it makes sense because whoever's facing Gunter next week is going to lose no matter what. And Rey Mysterio already fought Gunter. I don't think they want Karrion Kross losing to Gunter. Santos Escobar, it's not his time yet, so he still probably would lose. So Madcap Moss is the only option. And Madcap Moss, he's not a terrible wrestler. It's just his gimmick doesn't do anything for him. And now I don't even know what his gimmick is anymore. He's just generic. He's just there now. So I'd have to say, I hope he doesn't get squashed. I hope, he legit, puts up a fight and it's a decent match. But I'm not expecting much. So overall, tonight's SmackDown was so. I really liked all the Sami Zayn bloodline stuff that happened. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus versus Hit Row was okay. It was mostly a squash match. Lacey Evans match I didn't care for. The tag team match was good. Natalya Promo I didn't care for either. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, that was decent. And the main event was good. But overall, I feel like tonight's SmackDown was probably, if it wasn't for that bloodline stuff, tonight's SmackDown would just be average. There would be nothing special about tonight's SmackDown if it wasn't for that bloodline stuff. So I'd give tonight's SmackDown a 6 out of 10 just for that. But no, this was not, I don't know what was going on with this SmackDown. But with that being said, that concludes the SmackDown review. Now let's go over to Friday Night Rampage, AEW Rampage, which kicked off with the trios match, the Blackpool Combat Club versus Kip Sabin, the Butcher, and the Blade. It was actually not a bad match. I actually really liked this match. Oh my god. At one point, Moxley bit Kip Sabin. He bit him. Moxley got pulled in between the ring posts by Butcher and Blade. Claudio did the giant swing to Kip Sabin. And of course, Blackpool Combat Club was victorious. Brian is not really teaming with them right now. I guess because of his storyline with MJF. But I don't think he's out of the group. We're getting a practical Joker segment, and I was not a huge fan of this segment. I thought this was a little cringe. They stole Jericho's bat, and they were trying to do a small bat chant. They were, or at least trying to get one going, but they failed completely. And they were making fun. If Sami acknowledges Jey, what about Jimmy? I don't know about Jimmy. So I was just not a huge fan of this. It ends with Jey as beating up the Impractical Jokers and putting them through a table. But like I said, I was just not a huge fan of this segment. This was kind of cringe. We get a Dustin Reynolds segment, and he's talking about how Swerve Strickland can talk about him all he wants, but when he mentions his dad, his brothers, or his family, then he's crossed the line. And he says that he's one of the last of his kind in this business. And God doesn't like rejects, and neither does he. And he wants Swerve Strickland's soul. Then the Mogul Feuds attack Dustin. And Swerve Strickland challenges Dustin next week to a match. And he ends it by saying Happy Black History Month. So it seems like he's really going after a lot of the generational super wrestlers in AEW. We get Marina Shafir versus Ruby Soho. And I have to say, Marina Shafir is still kind of green. They don't showcase her enough. And I feel like people don't really care about her. But it's not her fault. So I feel like it's AEW's fault. I feel like they don't know what to do with her. But I was not a huge fan of this. But I feel like the reason why this match happened for a couple of reasons. One, they were in El Paso. And as we know, the late Eddie Guerrero is from El Paso. And who is managing Marina Shafir? Vicky Guerrero. So they did this so she can be out there. And then afterwards, Ruby Soho won. And guess who comes out? Toni Storm and Saraya came out. And they congratulate Ruby, but before anything can happen, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter attack them. And we find out there's going to be a 3-way match. It's going to be Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker versus Toni Storm. And so it seems like both women are fighting for control over Ruby. Like, Ruby's caught in the middle of all of this. And so I still think this is going to lead to a blood and guts match. And I do think that either Ruby turns heel before that match, or... Give me 1 second, guys. Or she turns here during the match. So that's why this match happened. It really wasn't about the match itself. It was about everything that was going on to the story. We get a Mark Briscoe backstage interview, and we find out it's going to be in action next week. And Mark Sterling interrupts him and basically offers him to work together. Mark says he wants to ride solo, and Sterling says that he thought Mark wanted to make money in this business for the first time in his career, but then says perhaps Mark wants to remain a stupid chicken farmer. And this offends Mark Briscoe. And he grabs Mark Sterling, and Josh Wood appears, and he steps to Mark and tells him that this isn't Sandy Fork and that Mark better watch who he puts his hands on. We get Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Ryan Nemeth. I don't want to call this a squash match, but this was a really short, quick match. Jungle Boy Jack Perry comes out, and Brian Cage comes out, and he does that whole neck slash thing. So it seems like they're probably going to set up a match with them. either in the coming weeks or at Revolution. We get a backstage interview with Hangman Adam Page, and he questions why is it always Renee doing this interview. He asks her if it makes Renee happy, if it made Renee happy to see that match. And he's about to tell Renee to tell Moxley something when Kip Sabian interrupts and tells Hangman to grow up. And Hangman leaves the interview before, according to Hangman, beats Kip Sabian's ass. Kind of seems like Hangman is not happy that Moxley beat him, but Moxley's now 2-0, so I don't know how this feud would continue unless maybe Hangman asks for another match. Our main event is the AEW All-Atlantic Championship match, Orange Cassidy versus Lee Moriarty. And I thought it was so hilarious that Lee Moriarty takes Orange Cassidy's glasses and he puts them on. Orange Cassidy takes his glasses back. Danhausen somewhere on the outside, attempted to curse Stokely Hathaway, but Stokely hit him with the cast. This kind of reminds me of Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., how he had the cast, and even though his wrist had healed, he still kept the cast on and would use it as a weapon. So I feel like they're going to try to do that with Stokely Hathaway. But this is a good match between Lee Moriarty and Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy is victorious. At the end of the match, you had Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett come out, and Lethal hit both Orange Cassidy and Danhausen with Paul Walter Heiser's Golden Globe. Best Friends attempt to come out and help, but they also get attacked too. And then the strange part is the Acclaim come out with steel chairs and daddy ass, and that is how Rampage went off the air. So Cowboy Bob Orton had that broken arm for literal years. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had it for years. So it seems like I feel like, okay, so does this mean the Acclaim is gonna have another match with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal? I know they had that feud for those tag titles. Maybe we're gonna get a big multi-man match out of this, but tonight's Rampage just felt a little weak. And compared to SmackDown, this was okay. Next week is a Slam Dunk, so special start time at 7 Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. But I'm gonna give this Rampage. I mean, the opening match and the main event were good. I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Thought Rampage was okay. It's your run-of-the-mill Rampage. All right, but with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And I'll see you guys live Monday after Raw. Bye.